You can do that. Did the sort of your strategy for building a business, it's got to be influenced by the experience with your mom and her shop. Like you recognize this as something that might be viable that shops might be interested in. Is that right?
Yep. Yeah. And my mom, she sells other patterns on postcards that are, they're a little bit smaller than mine. They cost less money. They cost less money than mine. But I never like a lot of the patterns there because they're just not my fabrics, or they're not my colors, or they're not modern enough for me. So I took something that I know sells well in the quilt shops and kind of made it a little more modern and accessible for people that like to make the types of quilts that I like to make.
Yeah. Is there more? I know at least one other company that does this. Are there just two of you out there, or are there other ones that do the postcard patterns?
There's a couple. I think there's 3 or 4, and there's a couple that do laminated cards.
Oh, interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. Well, I think it's really interesting that like your mom's shop, and I mean, I hadn't really thought about like why this, it all starting to make sense now. Interesting that it's about the. So here's the other thing I have to tell you. This is ridiculous. So when I was at Quilt, so I was really good. I was there for Quilt Market and Quilt Festival, and I did not spend a lot of money. I was there researching. I kept to my budget. It was very reasonable. And then I rode home with a colleague, and we kept stopping at quilt shops. It was not good. And so by the time we got to the last quilt shop, which was in, which I really liked, it's my very favorite quilt shop now of all times. I just broke down. It was the whole thing. The budget went out the window, and it was bad, and it was just like it was weird. It was really weird. I don't know why that happened, but one of the things I bought was the fabric you used in Sleep Tight. I have that fabric.
Oh, yeah.
And I had no idea what I was going to do with it. So I was like, whoa. That's because it's so cute that you don't want to break it up, but there's not. So I thought that so Sleep Tight, people have to go to your website and take a look at it. So I'm not, but I thought it was really clever for patterns for fabric when you love the fabric, and I haven't been able to find patterns that would let me do something with that fabric. So I just thought that was really funny because I was like, oh, that was very clever because I really did not know what to do with that fabric.
That happens a lot at in quilt shops too, is that I know in my mom's shop and the local quilt shop to me both had that fabric, and it's slow to sell, or people just aren't buying that main focus fabric because they don't know what they're going to do with it. And once they see my pattern, they're like, oh, that's so cute, I can totally do that.
Totally do that, exactly.
Both of those shops sold out of that focus fabric super fast.
After they had your pattern?
Yep.
Yeah, because it's really cute, but I had no idea. I think that's the other thing that's really interesting. I'm wondering with your fabric choices, like if it seems like this would be a really natural thing to have with fabric lines. I'm surprised they don't do this with fabric lines. Because you look at it and you think it's really pretty, but then you think, I have no idea what I would do with this. So I'm surprised. Maybe they do. Do they do that? Do you see?
Yeah, fabric companies do. They do ask designers to send them design ideas for, like, one in particular sent an email occasionally saying, these are the lines we have coming out in the next 3 to 6 months or something. We need pattern ideas for these specific lines, so send us something that you have. And if they like that specific pattern that you send them, they'll mock it up in their fabrics and print it in their lookbooks, or have their fabric reps show it to people when they're showing them their fabric, and kind of show them what this particular pattern would look like in these fabrics. And that helps sell the fabrics, and it also helps sell the patterns.
That's really cool. And do you have that? Have you had that experience yet, or are you hoping to have that kind of experience?
I haven't had that experience yet because I haven't submitted anything to the fabric companies yet, but that's something that I'm going to be doing.
That's like the next step.
In the future. That's one of my goals for next year.
That's really cool. Well, as you go, if you do it, I would love for you to come back and tell us about that experience if you do end up doing that. Because what we really are trying to understand the industry in all its many forms. So that would be really cool. All right, let me look at my list. As I said, hard-hitting journalism. My cousin would be really mad at me. She would be like, that's not how you do it. All right, so Schoolhouse is really weird. So it's at Quilt Market. It's the business-to-business part of it. It's like 15 minutes, sometimes 30 minutes. Everybody's running around. You get free samples from different things. It should be called just Madhouse, not Schoolhouse, because it is craziness. And you were part of that. So tell me what your experience was like on the other side of it, doing Schoolhouse at Quilt Market.
Yeah, I agree. It is a madhouse, and I had 15-minute sessions in the fall and in the spring. And the next market, I think I'm going to try for a 30-minute session, because those 15 minutes, boy, they just fly by, and it feels like you have 5 minutes to talk to people and present your things to them, and it's very stressful. It goes so fast, and people are just running around trying to get to the next room and trying to get a good seat at the next presentation.
Yeah, you were in a big room too, weren't you? You were in a really big room compared to other rooms.
At Spring Market, I was in a huge room, and there were. We were sitting in the back of the presentation before us, just waiting for our time. And I went out into the hallway just to stretch my legs. And there was a line outside the door, down the hall and around the corner. And I realized they're all waiting to get into
yours? That is so cool. Was that the coolest ever? It's really cool.
I was so nervous because I expected maybe 3 people because nobody had ever heard of me before. But I guess they liked my description or something.
That's really cool.
But basically, you just get up there, introduce what you're doing, talk about any new designs or products that you have coming out, and you're supposed to teach them a little bit of something. Like last in spring, we taught them about kind of strip clubs or stash clubs that had been running in a couple stores using my patterns. So
what is a strip club and what is a stash club? Tell us a little bit more about that is.
Strip clubs are, it's basically people that join a club that meets usually once a month. And what they do is they try to find patterns that work well with jelly rolls or 2.5-inch strips of fabric. And each month you come to the meeting and you give a show and tell of what you made from last month's pattern, and then they introduce a new pattern that they're going to be using this month. And hopefully everybody in the club buys some jelly roll strips from that shop, and then they go home and make patterns and come back to the next meeting, and it goes on and on and on.
So
it's a good thing for camaraderie, for people to meet up once a month to do show and tell, and it really helps the shops sell the fabric and sell other things while you're in the store.
Do you do any of your patterns you use? Obviously, you use jelly rolls and you also use fat quarters. Do you also do any others with pre-cut fabrics? Seems like there's a lot of cool pre-cuts, but challenging to find interesting patterns.
Yeah, I have one that's with a charm pack, and probably I think 3 or 4 that do jelly roll strips, and then most of the other ones are fat quarters. But I haven't done. I know there's hexagons out there, which I'd love to do something with hexagons or half hexagons, or I don't know, But all of the fabric manufacturers, their hexagons are different sizes.
Oh,
whereas
really?
A fat quarter or charm pack or jelly roll strip,
standardized,
whatever that manufacturer calls it, they're always the same size.
That's really interesting.
The hexagon precuts are different with every company, so it's hard to make a design for hexagon precuts that stretches over multiple fabric manufacturers.
Yeah. That's really interesting. That's weird. Huh. Didn't know
Mm-hmm.
that. Interesting. Okay, then you did Sample Spree, which is even more of a madhouse than Schoolhouse, right? So
yeah, that's like Black Friday for quilters.
Black Friday for quilters. Now, Sample Spree, people think like it's free. They aren't free samples. They are just very good price samples, and it's only for people who are at quilt market. So it's not for the general public. It's for people who own shops or are there for other reasons. And people kept saying you have to experience Sample Spree, which I did. And it was, that was craziness. That was just craziness. And it doesn't last for very long, right? It's like a couple of hours, right?
It's only 2 hours long the night before market opens. And they call it Sample Spree not because you're buying samples, but what you're buying is fat quarters, patterns, other notions that will be coming out in the future. So the manufacturers are introducing new lines of fabric at market that you're going to purchase, and they're not going to get to your store for another 6 months. But what you can do at Sample Spree is buy fat quarter packs or other pre-cut packs of those fabrics that you're not going to get for another 6 months. And you can make your shop samples out of those fabrics.
Interesting.
To kind of hype up the interest for those fabrics that are going to be coming into your store. So that's why it's called Sample Spree, because you're supposed to be making your samples from that. But it's kind of devolved into a lot of people just buying them for their personal stash, or a lot of times things get posted on eBay or Etsy right away, which shouldn't be happening.
Are people selling some of the Sample Spree stuff in their shops? Is that also happening?
It's possible.
Some people were buying so much it was out of control. I couldn't figure out what they were going to be doing with as much as they were buying.
Mm-hmm. And a lot of stores, they have like the week or 2 weeks after market, they'll have a market party and have big tables of and lay out everything that they found at market that they bought that's going to be coming to their shops. So they like to have the fat quarter packs of the fabric so people can see what they just bought. And a lot of stores make a big event out of that.
Do they sell it or auction it off, or they're just showing people like what they have?
Mostly just showing people what they have or what's about to come up.
Interesting. Well, it was weird, that's for sure. So then, did you stay for festival, or you don't? You just, because you don't care about you're just doing shops. We've already sort of established that. So you went home after market was done. Is that right?
Yep. For a couple of reasons. It's because I'm focusing on shops. Because with selling retail on my website, I make a sale of each pattern is $3.50, and somebody might buy 3 or 4 patterns. But with a shop, they're buying, $80, $100 worth of patterns in one fell swoop. And it's just as much work to package up and send out $10 worth of patterns as it is to send out $100 worth of patterns.
That's really interesting.
So that's why my focus is wholesale, and also because I want to help the shops sell more fabric in their shops. Cool. So that's what I'm focusing on. And also, I have a real job on the side.
Yeah.
So everything that I do related to this job, or related to the pattern business, is on my vacation time. So I simply did not have enough vacation time this year to do festival.
So
but hopefully
do you feel
in the future,
Yeah. Do you feel like this, like a lot of people have other, like this is a side job for a lot of people. Does it give you, why do you do it? Like on the economic side, do you make enough that it's worth it, or do you like being part of it, or sort of what's the motivation for being a quilt entrepreneur when it's extra work,
I do like being part of it. That's a big thing. I've met a lot of people from doing the business that I never would have met otherwise, and I have a lot of great friends that I never would have made otherwise. It gets me out of my little bubble, So I really love doing that. And also, it's definitely worth it for me